Hello everybody. We're jumping right into it. This is a bonus stream that's happening on Free Comic Book Day, which is, what, May 7th this year? It's always the first Saturday in May. And I decided to do a bonus stream today. Do a little bit of sketching, stuff I would be doing if I were at a comic book shop. And then a few other pieces and maybe a little bit of 3D sculpting of Waddlebottom, the Lord of all Ducks. So I'm going to have a little preview screen come on here for a moment, and I will be right back. So this will be fun. So hello folks. Happy Free Comic Book Day. It is Saturday, May 7th, and a little bit of a downer of a day. We comics people, we cartoonists, lost a fantastic artist named George Perez. Very sad. It was, you know, we knew it was coming, but yeah, it still packs a wallop. So today is going to be some drawing, and then a little bit of 3D modeling as well. But we're going to start off with a fan art piece, a sketch, kind of a commission. Every year I draw a very ridiculous character for the comic shop that usually hosts me for Free Comic Book Day. I've done, for the last 15 years, I've done the comic shop, Cards, Comics, and Collectibles in Reisterstown, Maryland. They bring me out, put me up. I used to be local, so it wasn't that big a deal. But I moved to Florida a few years back, and so they bring me in, and I usually do some drawing, free sketches for people who come by the shop, and it's a great time. But I was feeling under the weather earlier this week. Still not 100%, but one of the things I draw every year when I'm at the guy's shop, my friend Mark Nathan, when I'm at his shop, I draw this ridiculous bear character named Gary the Pooh, who, the idea being that he's that if there's Winnie the Pooh, there must also be some other kind of Poohs and other kinds of Winnies. And so I try to draw this ridiculous character. So I'm going to draw that first, and then we're going to get into a bit of my own characters, maybe some other stuff, and then some 3D modeling too. I see we're on what are we on? We are on YouTube and Twitch today. Not entirely sure what I'm drawing. I did a Free Comic Book Day at his shop back in October, which was the first one since the pandemic. Usually Free Comic Book Day is the first Saturday in May. But last year it was postponed because of everything going on, and not entirely sure what I'm going to draw here. Just kind of shaking the cobwebs out. I expected to be drawing. The Free Comic Book Day event this year has John Gallagher at it, and Tom Zoller and Emily Whitten, and who else? Mark Morales. I was expecting to draw Tom Zoller's characters and all the other characters, the other guests, all weekend. So I'm kind of pretty disappointed. Hey, LJ. Yeah, I'm at 34%. Good to see you, Marcus. And there's a free comic book download, and if everybody wants, let me see if I can get this to work. You may have seen this if you are on my mailing list, but that link there is the first chapter of The Middle Age. So if you haven't read it or you want a downloadable copy of it, it's free. And for people who can't make it to a comic book store or don't have one in their area. Oops, that was supposed to be the eraser. But I will be working on the 3D model of Waddlebottom for a little while. A short stream, just a bonus. Kind of just to make up for the fact that I'm not sitting in a comic book store all day drawing sketches for kids. So I decided to do, I'll try to do like a Jack Kirby style drawing of this character. I don't think I've ever done, so it'll be a fun change of pace. Of course I can't hold a candle to Jack Kirby's work, but it'll be fun to play. The nice thing about doing sketches at comic book stores is that they're really just these kind of loose exercises, and they don't really, it's not like a commission. A full-on commission is something that I really sweat over. It's like I want to make sure that, you know, I'm mailing something to somebody, I want them to love it. You know, and I think at the comic book store, and I know I've actually heard some cartoonists lately saying that they weren't going to do convention sketches just because it's a weird environment to draw. You've got pressure, people are watching you. So it's just a trickier environment to be doing sketches. So if you are, anyone who joins me throughout this stream, a bit of text will pop up with the information about how to download a free book. So I tried to set up one of those reply commands, but I still need to adjust my my Twitch settings to make it easy for people to do that. Always more to do. But I hope everyone's having a lovely Saturday. Again, the word was we lost George Perez yesterday. He, acclaimed cartoonist, co-creator of the new Teen Titans, which includes, you know, characters like Cyborg and Raven and Changeling. Terra, many others, Starfire. So a great cartoonist, a lovely person. We knew it was coming, but very sad. Well, that was the news today. So that between him and losing Neil Adams, who's another cartoonist, mostly known for, for giving Batman kind of a edgier look and feel. So the reason why Batman isn't the kind of campy 60s thing that, the Adam West, one of the big reasons for that was, Neil Adams, the artist. I think, of course, the writer, Denny O'Neil, gets a lot of credit too. But a lot of people give... Oh, I just gave him Quimp's legs. He does not have Quimp's legs. But a lot of people give Neil Adams a lot of credit for Batman becoming the Dark Knight. The Dark Knight was... I think they may have called him that before the Frank Miller book. But I think he definitely influenced Frank Miller's interpretation of Batman. So a rough month for comics. It's an LCD sound system song. When Someone Great Is Gone. One of the more meaningful parts of that song, I think, are "We're safe for the moment." Just kind of like, well, we've lost that person, and it's like a breather. I feel like that line means it's a breather before the next catastrophe. But that's a very nice song. All right. This is exactly the sort of silliness I would draw if I were in a comic shop on a day like today. So I'm going to lighten it up, and I'm going to go in there with that even heavier brush. And try to really... I want to go straight to inks. I'll darken that up. And I want this thing to be really, like, chunky. But kind of hinting that the character might still have fur on them. Like some weird combination of Jack Kirby and whatever the heck it is I'm drawing. Hey, Chris. Nice to see you. Chris User 7. Happy Saturday. Let me see if I think there should be it should repeat itself every 14 minutes or so. I think that's what I set it for. The information for downloading a free comic book from my website. I set one up because today is Free Comic Book Day. And so if there is a comic book store in your neighborhood, I mean, you're anywhere close to where you live, and if they're participating, they will have a number of free comics that you can go in and walk away with. It is a promotion for the comic store to get people to find it, locate the comic shop in their neighborhood and maybe buy something while they're there. The shop where I normally participate, I think it has one of their biggest sales days of the year. Days of the year. So it's good. It's good for the shops. It's good to get the word out. And all the comics that are free are created specifically for this event. So all the publishers, or many of the publishers, produce a book. And everyone's invited to take a copy, or as many as each store can order. Some stores have rules for what you can take, like it's free with a purchase or something like that. Hey, there it is. You can download a free book from that address. And it's essentially the first chapter of my webcomic, The Middle Age, in a downloadable PDF form. So you can read it online if you prefer, but if you want to have a downloadable one, did get to watch the first episode of... I took yesterday... I was feeling a bit under the weather, so I took a big chunk of yesterday off, basically not working, and I mean, I still did some stuff online, of course, and worked for some clients, but took it easy for the most part, and did get to watch the first episode of... What was it? The first episode of Strange New Worlds, the new Star Trek show on Paramount Plus. And I liked I liked it a lot. I've watched it twice now. Although that could just be the Dayquil talking. Oh, those are terrible. Nice thing about, again, convention sketches or comic book shop sketches is that they can kind of be a little bit off. You know, part of the fun is watching the person create the piece, so it doesn't usually have to be super perfect. But like I was saying, a lot of cartoonists are shying away from doing convention sketches because I think it has to do with the internet. I think it has to do with the idea that you create this piece, you're creating it on the fly in like weird conditions and weird lighting on a weird table with your suboptimal supplies. And then someone's going to share that on social media and it will live forever. You know, the sketches that everybody was doing in sketchbooks, you'd put it in there and, you know, years back, no one would see it. Now it's like you're going to get tagged and everyone's going to see it. Yeah, so I'm trying to give this a little Jack Kirby energy. His characters famously had like kind of sawed off fingertips, kind of squarish. This guy's kind of waving. It's not really foreshortening at all. I need to work on this a little bit. Let's take this down. I think I might have gone too quickly toward inks. Surprise, surprise. Let's change the angle up. Let's bring the head down at a more diagonal. Let's bring this shoulder forward and that one back. Let's go nuts with a hand. The idea with that classic comic book foreshortening is, you know, it's almost like one arm is in a different time zone than the other arm. Everything is so foreshortened. Even that could be a lot more life in that. Let's have it go back. We'll open the fingers up. So our shoulders are like this, and the hips are like this. Now we're talking. I think this backhand could be a bit better too. Let's bend the arm close to what I had before, but maybe put a little more life in it if I can. Yeah, I think it helps that it's just not a profile. How are we doing? A couple lost frames, not too bad though. Let's push those lapels way out. Make it sillier. hear my computer's, the fan is really cooking, although I have a ton of applications open. I apologize for that if that's audible in the background. How can I fix that? Closing out of a couple little applications in the background. See what else we got going on here. Okay, that is ridiculous. Let's see, where are we? All right, and we're back. Okay, so yeah, it was a lovely weather here in Florida. It was a shame I didn't get to go out much and do much. I didn't get to go to my local shop here and pick up any free books, but I'm hoping folks out there did get to pick up some things for Free Comic Book Day. I'm gonna flip that, see how it looks. It's ridiculous. So yeah, that's what I was shooting for. I'm gonna rotate these legs a bit. Maybe even bring them up. Bring that elbow out, because when your arms out, for the most part, almost always you see the elbow sticking out of the palm side of the fist. And the idea is I'm just going to sketch this out, and then I'm going to transfer this to paper for the comic shop that I was going to do Free Comic Book Day at. Again, I do the sketch of this ridiculous character for the shop every year, and I felt bad that being under the weather kept me from being there, so I'm feeling mostly better. But I'm friends with a lot of the cartoonists who are going to be sitting up there, and I've got lots of friends in that area. It's a shame to not have been there. But there was good news this week. I mentioned on my regularly scheduled stream on Thursday, where the miniatures manufacturer I've been talking with had got me new information, and I was continuing the conversation with them. On Friday, I got an updated, I guess, plan of action from them, and it looks very good. So I think the Kickstarter was absolutely going to happen. There will be miniatures created like the ones you see in the bottom right corner there, and I think the price is going to be quite affordable. Not as cheap as if you were going to purchase like a mass-produced miniature. The ones that are selling thousands of minis, but I got a quote so that even if it is a less than mass-produced amount, then we can still do it, and everybody can get the minis they like. And the plan with the first set, well, the plan is that there will be a standalone version of our hero, Sir Quimp, and then there's going to be a set of the 4 figures: Quimp, Melvin, Jarn, little baby dragon Jarn, and Bob. That will be the set of 4. And I think I'll be able to make it so that there'll be some early bird options to save money. So people who sign up for the first 48 hours or first 100 people or so. In the past with Kickstarter, that you can set up an early bird special one of 2 ways. You can set it by time. So like in the first 24 hours, 36 hours, 48 hours, you get to specify. You could say in the first week if you wanted to. You could say in the first 5 hours. I think their system is very flexible in terms of when you want to have that window of opportunity for people to chip in. But then there is the other way is to say, here's a set number of them. And I found that set number of that option is weird, because I think there's a tendency among people, I think people who are on Kickstarter a lot, backing a lot of projects. I think they see a new project launch, they see something that has a limited opportunity to kick in, and especially if it's a limited quantity, and then they pitch in. And what happens is, if anywhere along the way, let's say you make 10 special items that people could get. Let's keep the number small and simple. You've got 10 special items, those get snapped up. At any point, a person can unpledge before the end of a campaign. And so if someone who's pledged for one of those rare slots unpledges, then suddenly it becomes available again. And that unpredictability was weird. So someone who's joining the campaign weeks and weeks and weeks late could pick up a early bird special, or some sort of early bird offering, which seems weird, especially for other people who would have wanted that early on, and who aren't clicking refresh on the campaign page every day. That means an opportunity. They could have had an opportunity, and that opportunity was taken away from them, so I don't like that. Okay, so this sketch I have here, I will print blue on a piece of paper, and I will ink it for real for my friend, and hopefully they love it. It's very silly, but that's what we do. The other thing I'm doing is I'm taking one of the miniatures, one of the models I created, and I'm going to do a version of that as a drawing. to accompany. I think each one of the figures will have a little bit of artwork associated with them. I'm not sure if it's going to be a label or what, but I thought about making a piece of artwork based on the mini, and it could be fun. So this was a first pass at what that might look like. I simply output the render in an angle I liked. I think that's nice and ridiculous. Anyway, that's what I'll be working on. Well, oh, and there's the link if you want to pick up that free book. Okay, so with that aside, let's put this aside for a moment. And let's go to Nomad Sculpt. Let me see. Alrighty. And those credits there are for Kevin MacLeod, who is the composer of all the music you're listening to here. And this is how the wing is coming together for Waddlebottom. Let's see if we get the crown, body, not the sphere. So oh, I'm missing the top of the bill. So this is roughly the first pass. It's not terrible. I'm going to build a lot more life into the face and the figure, but my focus right now is the wing, which is coming along. I try to create this as a single element, like take a piece of clay and kind of carve a wing out of it, and that was okay. But I found that I decided, let me just build it one feather at a time, and that's where this is. I kind of like how it's coming together. The only thing that I did differently, the only thing I added from Thursday's stream and today, is that this row of feathers here, let me see, that row of feathers, I duplicated some of them right there and moved them up and back behind the rest of the wing. And what that did is it sealed up. If I hide that, you'll see what effect that has. You can see these gaps. I'm trying to zoom in a lot. You can see gaps between the feathers, and by adding this row, I'm filling in that space, and that's what I want. I want to fill in that area so that it's basically airtight, just so it prints better. The model will hopefully look better. The whole thing will hopefully be stronger, and I can even do that some more. But those sit behind, so if they're selected, you shouldn't even really see them. You'll see a little bit, where they, again, where those gaps would have been, but I think it's a good solution. I was trying to figure out how to do that without trying to thicken every wing, every feather up. I have to just thicken all these different pieces. LJ on YouTube says, I think that looks nice. Well, thank you. That's very nice. Okay. So we did those. This is just sort of like a light, fluffy feather that we're going to add to the wing. So I'm going to move that up. I'm going to separate these out. The measuring tool, I know that one. You see, we're still streaming just fine. I thought maybe we had a line drop there for a moment. Okay. So that's the wing we're building everything out of. I think there was another wing here, which is a translucent one. Kind of our basic shape that we're using as a guide. Okay, so it looks like I need to have a couple, like a series of feathers that build up toward under that bit we just did there, that third bunch. Okay, so I'm selecting the wing, clearing the mask, choosing the lasso tool, and I think I'm going to extract a few feathers. Again, these ones are going to sit in front of the previous one, so they're not going to be too thick. Oh, I think we drew through the object again. We don't want to do that. That's an option in the pen tool where you choose front-facing vertex only. Otherwise, it'll draw right through the object, and you'll get, when it extrudes, it'll be on both sides. You'll get this like pieces of bread. So, unintended. So these feathers, I want a few that will come out and kind of, I was going to say feather, but will kind of flow into the torso. Okay. I don't want to thin it too much because, again, if I thin it too much, then it won't fill the space the way I need it to, and I really want this thing to be chunky. Oh, and that's information about where you can read my webcomic. So this will just be a short stream. I don't know who's going to be on. I wanted to do that little sketch. I did want to pop on, but it was a later start than I would have liked. I was all thinking about, well, just being under the weather makes things a little more difficult. So this will lean outward. So it's going to lean, it's going to fall back, and then these individual pieces will slide forward like aluminum siding. Or like feathers. That might be a more apt analogy. I'll definitely add a few more to kind of mask this area when I'm done. I think this looks right-ish. It's so important to get these right. It's sort of like dominoes. You have to have them all fall in the right way. Okay, so I'm gonna paint this thing up a little bit. Clay tool, nice and small. And I still need to go back and add all the chips and nicks in the sides of these feathers to make them feel more feathery. Because all it takes is just a little notch here and there, and suddenly it's gonna feel way more like a feather. emails too. I think that's what's beeping. Yep. Okay, we'll close that out. Are we still just looking at that reference of the bird, so I hopefully get the feathers just right. I just shrunk that wing down just a little bit. That way the shapes are not all exactly alike. That wing for a moment. Hmm. maybe these pieces are too gigantic. I think I'm gonna have to discard them. I think they're, well, no, maybe not. Maybe it's being too precious about it. I don't hate that. So I think the next one, it has to, I think they have to overlap and get to the wing. Hey, Max, how are you? NPC. Yeah, I'm still under the weather a bit. I'm sorry I missed the you know, up to my head in feathers at the moment. Feather-brained at the moment. So I'm trying to figure this out. But yeah, I'm still a little bit under the weather, but feeling better. I'm glad I didn't travel. I'm glad I stayed at home. That I'm very glad I didn't make anybody else sick. Again, it's not the COVIDs, because according to the test I took, but who knows, maybe the test was wrong. It was one of those rapid ones. It wasn't one of the, thorough ones. So I think this has got to be a smaller wing. Dang it, a smaller feather that just sort of covers everything else up. But I hope your call to action comic is coming along great. NPC. I'm trying to see if I can see a better image of the inside of the wing. It's just kind of a big fluffy mess at some point. It's like I'm kind of going a little weird with the placement of it, but I think that's actually in line with what the little feathered friends are doing. I think it is just a madhouse there. So I think it's, yeah, it's lower on the toward the tip of the wing, and it slowly gets covered up as it gets closer. So it's sort of like the opposite to what's underneath it. Yeah, that seems about right. So like LJ was asking about, hey Eric, nice to see you. Yeah, a little bonus stream for Free Comic Book Day, and pouring a little bit out for George Perez. Yeah, bracing was rough. But if you don't know who George Perez is, well, you're in luck, because the man left behind a massive body of incredible work. Yeah, and an incredibly nice gentleman to boot. All right, so we're gonna let's see all the oh, not Mr. Wing. Everybody but the wing. Oh, dang it. Okay, I think that's just them. We'll call that row 3. Feathers row 3. Little simple merge. It's gonna be a short stream, just doing a little bit of work, particularly on this model. The tricky bit with the feathers, I try to work on it without having the giant screens of reference, and it's like it's so easy to just get lost. I don't know what I'm doing. NBC, no, this is still the music by Kevin MacLeod. So it mixes up. It just depends where you come into it. Sometimes it's going to be quiet. Sometimes it's going to be, a blockbuster stuff. Okay, let's bring the thin wing, the chicken wing back. Bring these 2 rows of... Okay, they're just under each other. Fair enough. Yeah. Apparently once you get to this portion of duck's wing, it's just a mess. So and something LJ was talking about using a stamp on part of it, the part of Waddlebottom. There's a stamp tool. You've seen me use it on Quimp's tabard to bring the logo out, or on the puff balls on the Bob's hat, and it's basically lets you draw a texture onto the model, kind of like add relief to the model, like a either it can indent, or it can pull material out in the shape of a graphic, or a I've seen people use it to, they've imported like dimples, like circles, and created a golf ball texture fairly easily. It doesn't really wrap around shapes all that well. Again, this 3D modeling program is, it's all on an iPad. It's not the most powerful modeling program in the world. Some of these things, it's like you're absolutely better off using a more high-end program. But I'll be creating a stamp of a feather. I'm going to draw that in Procreate and bring that in and use that to pull out a feathery type texture on the non-wing portion of Waddlebottom and see how that goes. I'm optimistic. We'll see. I might use it. I'm also probably going to use it on the chicken wing part of the wing here, because I'm not gonna build individual scale mail like bits all around the outside of the wing, because that would be like making every feather. I mean, who would do that? What kind of madman? Yeah, there's a thing in nerd culture where it's like, people get demerits if you haven't seen all of, pick whatever show, or you've never watched Supernatural. A friend of mine had never seen The Fifth Element, and immediately was getting grief for it. Like, you haven't seen The Fifth Element? Oh my goodness! I'm like, I really took the opposite approach. I'm like, you get to see The Fifth Element for the first time. You are so lucky. I think I botched that up. I started rotating that the wrong way. Oopsie-doo. Undo. I was treating it like it was supposed to go under when it's supposed to go on top. So that was why it was fighting me. Isn't that so much easier when I don't ruin it? I think what happened was I was also on a weird axis, and so when I moved it out, it suddenly not only moved it left, moved it west, it also moved it, plurth. It moved it along a different axis. Strange New Worlds. Yes, I saw the first episode twice now, and I loved it. I'm certain there's quibbles people will have about it. Star Trek still feels very insular, like, you can't make a reference. It's very few references are to new things. They're always references to something that happened before. Like, you can't have a person come on the ship who isn't related to somebody else. It's like if every new character in Star Wars was related to someone in the cantina in A New Hope. It makes the universe feel very small to me, instead of being this big thing where, again, if you want to create a new Star Trek, looking at the old Star Trek wasn't making references to another show. And the old Star Trek barely was consistent with itself. Vulcanians. Spock is a Vulcanian, at least in one episode. So I don't know. It's a little silly in some places, a little first season of Enterprise in some places. But overall, a hoot. I enjoyed the heck out of it. And I enjoyed the ending of Picard. I was concerned. I did it again. I pushed it back instead of bringing this wafer forward. Now all I'm seeing is chocolate covered graham crackers. Why can't I get Keebler as a sponsor on this channel? But I actually like the way Picard kind of stuck its landing. Surprisingly, not great, but they kind of have a way out of everything with that particular plot line. I won't get into it, but I think they stuck their landing. Max is if the music's too loud, I can always tone it down or bring my microphone up. I might not have my microphone close enough to my face. Oh, all right. Eric is talking about I missed a little bit, but talking about Supernatural. That Eric on Twitch is saying Supernatural is pretty far from nerd culture if you ask most people. The fans for that care less about the fantasy and monster hunting and more about shipping. Yeah, I can see that. So the soap opera side of it, the webtoons of it all. Eric says at the same time, it's nice to take some of the old characters who had little or no characterization, actually flesh them out. Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm drawing a blank on the physician's name. But yeah, it was in the original series. It's nice to see who was on the Enterprise before Kirk was there. Yeah, LJ, the wings are... Yeah, I think also they're just kind of, at some point, most ducks look like they were groomed by a wild animal. So things go astray. They're not using as much mousse as this 3D guy would like them to have used. Yeah, so it seems like they've got the Strange New Worlds started off with a bit of an origin story. You know, it does. You know, it's got that quality of that honest trailer take on Critical Role. You know, this character with a tragic backstory, and this character with a tragic backstory, and every character with a tragic backstory. Okay, so how is that fitting together? It feels like at a certain point, it tucks under yet again, and then there's a whole other row where I'm going to worry about that now. Oopsie-doo. I wish I could lock things. I wish I could lock a layer. Can I lock a layer? No. But I thought Strange New Worlds was awesome. I like the ending of Picard, although I'm in the minority in that I like the first season of Picard as well. But I also like the ending of Moon Knight, again, which makes me another weirdo. I do think a lot of people enter these shows with shields up. Like, I'm not going to like it. Shields up, arms folded, and they're just watching the TV scowling and say, okay, you know, like, it's like a contest, like a person who goes to a comedy show intent on not laughing at anything. They approach science fiction shows and genre shows like, go ahead, try to entertain me. I dare you. So, I don't know. Part of me is like, you know, I'm a curmudgeon. I'm an old man. So I'm like, try not to bring that baggage to every damn thing. Yeah, Eric. I feel like the What If show on Disney Plus did the best job of having and also you could do the Bad Wolf season of Doctor Who, building self-contained individual episodes that built something in the end. And I kind of feel like that's where Strange New Worlds has to live. I think they have to have self-contained episodes that you don't don't have this other thing weighing down the whole storyline. And they have to have science fiction stories. They basically have to have a science fiction tale and not everything. It has to be plot driven to some degree, as opposed to Discovery, which is just, you know, overwrought character moment to overwrought character moment, you know, punctuated with explosions. NPC on YouTube, Max Powers Comics. Fantastic comic you should read. Up to 86 subscribers on WEBTOON. Should be at 150. Should be at 300 subscribers. It's kind of percolating. It's like it's at that point you just see critical mass is about to happen. It's going to explode. NPC says most of the best backstories are tragic. I find. Could an upbeat backstory work? I think so. I think having a tragic backstory builds up empathy for the character. I mean, if you have a character who's just like, you know, if Bruce Wayne's parents are fine and he's just a millionaire, you know, it's not like people aren't immediately going to be on his side. Where it's like, if you introduce that kind of sympathy for the character, you know, Harry Potter is a good example of how you can really lay it on thick. You know, it's not bad enough his parents are, you know, I don't think you can have spoilers, since the author seems intent on spoiling it for everybody anyway. You know, you've got the parents who are deceased. You've got the outcast. You've got spectacles. You've got a scar. You've got living under a staircase with family that hates him, treats him like dirt. You know, basically, they've just piled on this character. So, at some point, you're just like, you know, oh, you just want to give them a blanket or something. So, I mean, yeah, there's like a friend of mine said there's a difference between emotionally manipulative and good. And I think that's a relationship like John Williams soundtracks, which I think, I took umbrage. But I think that I like that row of feathers. I think that's doing a lot to help mitigate issues. And holy cow, this is overly complicated. Go to the gizmo mode so I can actually see what I'm selecting. Okay, let's simple merge those. And can I scale them so they're not quite so teensy? I love how that's intersecting there and actually giving it more of a feathery look than I had intended. Yay for happy little accidents. Miss Marvel doesn't have a tragic backstory and she's pretty popular, says Eric. Eric on Twitch says she becomes a superhero just because she's a huge fangirl. Yeah, that's true. There's a lot of, again, so that's the reader's way in. As a fan of the medium, they're like, oh, they see another fan and they're like, okay, that's our way into the story. Like, they still want to have a character that people can identify with. And I think that's just why, like, everybody does it, I think, show of hands of people who don't have tragic backstories. I mean, I don't, and there's also characters whose backstories you don't get into too much. And for instance, in the Middle Age, Quimp, I haven't talked about his family much. I mean, I've named them as parts of jokes, like, his father, the previous, and his grandfather, the previously previous. I mean, that's just mostly a joke about using the word previous. Or how you would even have titles, or how titles might be assigned retroactively, or that even if they were used concurrently, that somehow, how would they even know? Anyway, it was a mental MC Escher drawing. But I didn't let the backstory of Quimp be the thing that's the hook. I let what's happening to the person and letting the quest be the hook, letting the goal be the hook, like trying to rescue your love. I mean, again, it's rescuing the princess is kind of the easiest thing in the world because you have someone who's doing something presumably noble, rescuing somebody who's presumably worth rescuing from something that's presumably difficult, a situation that's presumably difficult or challenging. So there's a lot there that's really, puts the reader on your side pretty quickly. Let me cheat a little bit here and see if I can bring out this portion of the wing, at least this section of the wing, and see if I can use it to at least save me some time. Can I reuse it in some fashion? But it's interesting. I do think it depends on the character, depends on the culture that the character's created in. There's an interesting quality to Doctor Strange and Iron Man and Batman, where they sort of had to have empathy beaten into them. Maybe not Batman as much, because I guess he was the original. But for Iron Man and Doctor Strange, they're kind of shown as jerks, and that empathy was not their instinctive mode. And it wasn't until the inciting incident where they are activated in some way as heroes. I'm trying to find the right angle with which to turn this thing. Yeah, and Picard doesn't have to talk about Picard. I mean, it doesn't have to work that out because they've already earned so much, you know, love from the audience with everything that's come before it. Not sure if that's working or not. I don't think that's working. I think it's too obviously just a duplication of the other piece. Even if I go in and cut out different notches into each one of the feathers, it's not going to do the right thing. It's not going to have the right effect. What do I think of this? I enlarged these feathers, and I think that was a mistake. I think they need to feel smaller as they get closer. I think my concern was that they're getting so small that, you know, what am I doing here? There's no way for this stuff to print. It'll never be seen. Why am I... It's sort of like if you're working in Clip Studio or Illustrator or something or Photoshop, when you zoom in so much and you're working at such a small point, you're like, this will never print. No one will ever see this. Every time I'm working in vector, that seems to be where I end up. Okay, I don't hate that. I'm wondering if the relief that I add to that chicken wing will be sufficient to give me the effect I want. Let me see. I don't think I've added post-processing here. Post-processing. This will add like the hint of shadow. It adds basically additional fake shadow to give us more of a sense of what the lighting will look like. MPC Max says, asks on YouTube, what are your thoughts on villains turning good? Any cases of it done well or poorly that stand out to you? A good one for me is Vegeta from Dragon Ball Z, or Zuko from Avatar. Zuko from Avatar is pretty much best instance of it ever. First of all, he's a kid, and you got to give a kid, with a tragic backstory, you got to give a kid a chance to grow into the person they're going to become. And he clearly, you know, with his sister and, you know, and the situation with his father and missing mother, all that stuff really contribute to, you know, just trying to, really just trying to recover his reputation and his place and the love of his parents. I mean, it's like his father. It's like all that stuff is perfect motivation for a person to be an antagonist without necessarily being villainous. And then you add to that the spitefulness of the character and all that anger and rage. I mean, just so much rage, and the calming influence of his uncle. There's just so much there that, yeah, I mean, in terms of an arc of a character, Zuko's got the arc of the story. I mean, yes, Aang has a lot to learn, but Zuko, it's, of all the characters, his is the real dramatic shift. Turning good, case of it done well or poorly. Sometimes it feels poorly when you feel like it's the audience dragging the creators in a direction. Like, we really like this character, can you make them good? I think Angel and Spike in Buffy might be like that. Angel less so. Spike definitely. They were trying to replace Angel. They're trying to replace that dynamic. It felt him as a good guy, reluctant good guy, never really sang to me the way it did with Angel. I don't know. I mean, you can look at Otto Octavius, you know, a lot of the scientists with, you know, out of control monsters, things like that. People who weren't really thinking about the end result of what they were doing as much as, you know, that eureka moment. I'm rambling. Oh, my own chatter is pushing the wonderful comments off the screen. So I'm not. So yeah, I'm not really sure about other ones that a case of a villain turning good. I don't know. I have to think about that. There's some more. Not so sure about the middle age, but looks like the king might not be so evil, so add him to the list. Interesting. I don't want to comment just yet. Yeah, interesting. LJ says, I think on YouTube says, I think I remember you saying you were going to simplify and stylize the wings. It does look duckwing like. Yeah, that was kind of my. I mean, it is stylized. It's not like I've added the exact number of wings. It's not. I mean, the idea is it should look like the wing, but not be. You know, I'm kind of just making it up. Plus, it's going to be very chunky. So, I think part of it is that if people see this, they might have a wow factor to it, without being, you know, it's still right now. It's definitely still chocolate covered graham crackers. Any of the bad guys in Fast and the Furious, Eric. That's I do think that's a case of a lot of those are like. You know, that's a very popular character. Can we make them a good guy? Like, the one example, really obscure example, is Avon from Blake 7. It's pretty much an unwatchable show, except for that character. And he was the villain. Then he became kind of an anti-hero. LJ says, Quip has no backstory because you killed him off on page 1. Yeah, I mean, he talks about his life a little bit, but it's more like... there's room to tell that story, I think. I mean, the idea of when I drawing characters, something a friend of mine, Kevin, said when cartoonist I met ages and ages ago, he said that the characters you draw should look like the lives they've led. You know what I mean? They had a story to the moment they got there. You're thinking about that internally, but it also should be reflected on their figure. You know, easiest example is you know, the scar on the face. You know, oh, clearly this person's been in a fight. You've got backstory written all over them. Darth Vader's kind of wishy-washy for me. I get that too. I can see that, especially where they took him. The whole, you know, but also that could be the midichlorians talking. I'm sorry. Yeah. Eric says, Twitch, we don't talk about the midichlorians. That's all I talk about. I talk to someone about Star Wars, I say that's my favorite part. I like it a lot. There's a lot there. I was really disappointed. I heard there was going to be a new Disney Plus series called The Midichlorian. It turns out it was The Mandalorian. I was so sad. Yeah, any of the bad guys in Fast and the Furious. Well, if you do anything, that's what The Sopranos showed us, that if you do anything with the motivation being family, you can do it. You can kill your own family for your family. Show is so absurd. It was really the thing that made me go, oh, you can use that excuse to do anything. Okay. All right, so that's the bottom of our wing. Yes, there's gaps. Yes, I have to import, oopsie-doo. I have to import feathers and see if I can fix the, add some texture to this, the chicken wing part. But I have to do the top side of the wing now. Again, most of the top side is done because they're sharing that outer edge. And I think the top side is actually more, it's kind of simpler in a way. It's less complicated. I think if I can find a nice large picture of it that isn't on Pinterest. That's true. Okay. All right, so I'm going to create a second set of wings. I did it again. Feathers. That overlap the ones starting halfway through. Let me bring my wing back. That's our translucent wing, which I think you can see. Maybe kind of, sort of. You increase the opacity a skosh. It is way back there behind stuff. Let me duplicate that. I'm going to move it a little bit further, closer to the camera. And hide the original one. Try to look at it sideways. And grabbing that center of the circle, bring it forward. Okay, so we use that using the select mask tool, making sure front facing vertex only. There's going to be a series there, a big series here, almost overlapping, or in fact overlapping. We'll see. But it's rounded. It's a rounded wing. Huh. All right, let's try that. Try extruding that. All right, lovely people. I think I'm going to end up wrapping it up pretty soon. It's about 5. It's a short stream, like I said, about an hour and a half. I just wanted to pop on for a little bit, work on this duck a skosh, and just see everybody and say happy Free Comic Book Day. Again, that's the link right there. If you check out my website, you can download the first chapter of The Middle Age. It's the same story you can read online and may have read already, but if you can also share that link with anybody. It's going to be free on my website for the next week, so if there's anybody out there who you think would like to have a copy of it, they can get it that way. I also have sales going on, so if you were waiting for The Middle Age to get cheaper, the 2 hardcovers are 50. Both hardcovers are 50, so that's about that's the price it would have been if you'd supported the Kickstarter. So it's about as cheap as they've been, or it's the price they are when I go to a convention. It saves you about $10. So I thought that was pretty great. And then there's a sale on the t-shirts and all that stuff. So if you wanna, it's there. Remesh. I don't want to keep sharp edges. I'm gonna turn symmetry off. Smooth that out. Also going to clear the painting off the wing. It's because there was some painting I had drawn, some just guidelines I had drawn on the that first outer wing shape. Whoa, what are you doing over there? Oh, I still had a portion of the wing selected from the previous bit. That explains why when I increased the mesh resolution, it wasn't giving me the detail I wanted because it was sharing that resolution with the other chunky bit off there. So I'm going to separate it and delete that thing. That's what I get for not... that's what I get for not clearing my selections. There we go. What are you? Aren't you interesting? I recessed something there at one point or another. I punched that down. Well, mistakes were made. No one's ever going to see this. This is just basically the reference bit. Okay. Let's get that mesh back up. Turn off solo. Hide the wing for a moment. Now we're going to want to bring this up. And it's... Okay, look at the side view. Gizmo. I'm going to rotate it a bit. And they overlap. My goodness, is that exactly where I need it to be? Darn close. How's that angle? It's pretty good. Okay. So that is... interesting. The wings are these wings are particularly thick, and there's a ton of overlap from one to the next. So I'm okay with that. It'll help the model makers. Ooh, see the remeshing of that thing. I put it up over 200, but the individual piece of it was much lower. Okay. Clean that up. I feel like all these things need to be smooth. Anywho. Clay. Yeah, it's really pretty. Okay. Again, I'm not entirely sure if that's where the spine of the feather would go. Just eyeballing it. That was a great question, Max. I appreciate that. The question about the villains, it makes me think. Yeah, I think to me, the interesting thing about villains... Oops, I used the drag tool. The most interesting thing about villains is when they've got a backstory that you can truly empathize with. Where you can go, they're not entirely wrong. They're just... You know, it becomes an ethical question between, you know, two people who have two different solutions for the problem. I mean, I don't think Thanos' argument holds much water because it's just so thin and, you know, I have a miracle glove that can do anything in the world. And like, I think someone's daughter, I heard somebody's daughter cracked the problem. Well, if you could do that, why kill half the people when you could just double the resources? And it's like, oh, well, there goes that movie. There goes that villain's plotline. So he really is the Mad Titan. He is his solution is not a good one. I know that's a hot take. That maybe Thanos. I don't think Thanos has it all figured out. Okay, I don't hate that. So those will all come back, and they'll all end up pulling alongside the body. Have I done that right? Well, I think our Waddlebottom's also hyperextending his wing in a way that a lot of the photos aren't going to show. He's more flexible than the average duck. It all relates to his tragic backstory. Okay. Oof, oh good. Thing is, when I drag this out, I want to drag it out in an angle that allows the overlap to be visible in some fashion, like that-ish. And then get above it and then rotate it by grabbing the dark portion of the circle. Basically, I'm trying not to rotate it on its axis. I'm trying to rotate it from the camera. So I set my camera right above the point where I want to rotate it, and then when I rotate it, it's moving parallel to our camera view. And that's the key bit, is finding the right angle, the right viewing angle. Eric, maybe he got. I wasn't paying attention to chat because he's the Mad Titan. His logic is not supposed to make any sense. He's a sociopath with a messiah complex. But still a better motivation than I think it's just a less sellable motivation than the comics. I think there's certain things that I think you'd be, you're trying to sell this to the crowd of people who didn't grow up reading, the comics we loved. So you can't be like, well, he's kind of hot for death, People are like, what? No. NPC says, I like the inhumane villains because it's a peek into the darker side of humanity. Trying to win the love of the embodiment of death. That's something that most people have a hard time. Exactly, Eric. Yeah, I'm sorry. I just should read what you said instead of rambling on my own and then going, what? Yeah, what Eric said. No, the Infinity Gauntlet was just that whole thing was just a G.I. Joe episode. Get the 6 MacGuffins. And, all that. There was a lot of talk of the Time Stone. If you remove one of the Time Stones and everything falls apart and then he just destroys them. Like, wait, you said maybe there's a no prize there waiting for someone to figure that out. But it's also one of those things where, we're going to do time travel in this thing, so don't everybody set your thinking caps to stun. All right, you lovely people. I'm going to end this here. I think I haven't ruined it yet. But thanks to you, I'm feeling 4.5% better. This brings me up to a whopping 43%. So I appreciate it. Oh, not the Infinity War storyline. Gotcha. Right. The, who is it? Ron Lim? An underappreciated artist in my book. I loved his stuff on X Mutants, all back in the day stuff. But he was doing all the Silver Surfer for the longest time. Really like that guy's stuff. It was a very John Byrne-ish. I was a big fan of that. But thank you all for being here. No rating or anything like that. We really don't have a quorum over on Twitch. But thanks for being here. I see we get 6 people on the YouTube and a handful of people on Twitch. Yeah, it's a beautiful day. Enjoy it. Go get some free comics, and don't forget to download the free comic you can get from my website if you go to steveconnelly.com/shop and check out the sale items. James, oh no, nice to see you. My little bonus stream is wrapping up here. But let me do my exclamation point. Wait, did I do that right? No, I did it wrong. Where are we? Exclamation point. Oh, if I can type 4 letters correctly. That's the link. You can get a free book from my website. If you haven't read my comic already, I hope you check it out. And you can share that link with your friends. So have a beautiful weekend. I will see everybody on Tuesday. I'm feeling a bit better. Thank you all for your patience, and see you then.